everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome back to this episode of Family in Focus, brought to you by the Asian Community Development Council, or ACDC, a nonprofit here in town that is aiming at educating, empowering, and connecting Asian American Pacific Islander community across Nevada. So I've been touching on different issues leading up to today, and I think a lot of people have been, of course, looking at personal safety in light of course, some of the attacks happening across the country. And we wanted to make sure we get some good information out there for people, especially small business owners, especially women who are running this business. Of course, as you know, this month is Women History Month. We've been focusing and highlighting so many amazing women. And we want to talk about this aspect. I think that's really important, especially for female business owners out there. But for everybody, I think we can take some good tips out of personal safety. And we have a great guest with us today, Tiffany Gassett. She is the crime prevention specialist with the LVMPD Spring Area Valley Command. Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's great to have you. I know ACDC and the Las Vegas Metro Police Department have been great partners for many years. So it's great to have you on the show today to talk about this issue in particular. And I think, talking about Women History Month and also what happened, as you saw in Atlanta earlier this month, small female business owners targeted when it comes to crime. I think that's been kind of, just puts us in that space where, a lot of people aren't feeling comfortable. It's like, am I safe in my house, in my business? And I think not just women, but anyone out there. So first, talk a little bit about what you do at Metro, Tiffany, some of the things that you put out there, especially to have people feel safer, whether in their home or in their businesses.
Sure. So each of the area commands has a crime prevention specialist assigned. And so what a crime prevention specialist, what we do is we get out in our community, or you can come to us too. We host first Tuesdays when we'll have those again. We go out and make relationships with community leaders, business owners, and talk about safety. And safety can encompass so many things: personal safety, robbery and burglary prevention. We maintain all of the social media platforms for our different area commands, and we help with a multitude of programs throughout the valley. One of them being women's personal safety, another one being crime-free multi-housing.
And yeah, we're talking about personal safety for women just in light of what's been happening. And you said statistics show that, dangers are real and crimes targeting women are real, not just here, but across the country, right?
Yeah, and not just here across the country, across the globe. So globally, women are 35% of women in the world are going to be attacked violently or come into a violent situation. So that's like a third of this planet that's going to have, at some point in their life, might be in a violent situation. So something that we want to do as a police department is put out what you can do to keep yourself safe. And one of the main things that you can do, one of the best things that you can start with is the education and awareness. Education is you don't want to be thinking about what's going to happen when it's happening. You want to have some kind of plan ahead of time of what you might do if you're in a situation like that.
Yeah. And I think maybe we'll just start there, when you're talking about, small businesses and women, a lot of people own and work, on their own, maybe late at night to the evenings. And what are some of the things that you're telling, business owners out there, especially women, how to stay safe, just in case something happens?
Sure. So one of the first things that you're going to want to think of is the 3 Ps. You want to be proactive, prepared, and protected. So proactive being you've maybe attended a women's self-defense class. You know what the exits are in the business that you're in. You've worked through a plan in your mind. If someone grabs me, if something happens, what am I going to do? Because that planning is what's going to help you when you're scared and when you're, you don't have your wits about you as much as you normally would. You've already thought about this. So that proactive part is that planning. The second part is being prepared. So you want to have some situational awareness. That's going to help anyone, anytime. You're going to want to know what's around you. Is it dark? Is it daytime? Do you notice a lot of people or maybe very few? Are you concealed? I mean, there's a lot of things to think through. And I don't want to say that people need to live in fear and be thinking, what's going to happen? What's going to happen all the time? But it's something that you need to be aware of all the time. What's happening around you? We've come in a time where people are focusing on their phone, or maybe they're just in a funk. We've been in a pandemic for a long time, isolated, but you still need to be focusing on what's happening, regardless if you're by yourself or in a busy kind of area, because those kind of thoughts and those kind of just knowing what's happening around you is the first step in protecting yourself.
So you said three P's, what? Proactive, prepared. What's the last one again?
And protected. So protected being, different people are going to be comfortable doing different things. So we would want anyone, a person, a woman, to take maybe a few defense classes. Not everything's going to fit for everybody. I mean, some people aren't going to have the strength, aren't going to feel comfortable. So if you're not, you don't think that maybe you want to fight, but I would never take that off the table. You're going to want to think, do I need a personal safety device? And those devices can be something like a safety alarm that, has really high decibels. That's going to get people's attention. Am I going to scream? A flashlight, that kind of those tactical lights that really flashes out light, some sort of weapon if you're trained. But that said, you need to be trained and ready to use these things.
Right.
And mostly, like I said, your faculties, your wit about you. You have to be prepared and have that kind of background thought that you're ready to do something if something happens.
And I think that's what's been really difficult, right? As you said, with the pandemic, it's hard to have those in-person classes that people have been able to have access to. But you said things are starting to open up, and, another area command actually is going to be holding a class soon.
Yes. So our Summerlin Area Command is hosting a women's personal safety class in April. I would encourage anyone and everyone to check out their Facebook page, their Instagram, or their station page, and sign up, whatever kind of registration they're setting up. I don't have that information in front of me right now, but log on, become their friend, and then send an email over there. Because depending on interest and depending on availability, I'm sure they'll sign up as many people as they can, or even put more classes in place if the interest is really high. But what that class kind of talks about, it's not a tactics class. You're not going to interact and protect yourself. What it is kind of getting in the mind of the attacker and thinking, what are they thinking and what you need to think. So you need to kind of have an idea of what, that stereotype of what they're doing, what has been done historically, so that you can think of your tactics to protect yourself.
And I think that's so important because, we're hearing all these stories of how, women are being targeted, whether elderly, Asian American, business owners. I mean, it's just kind of, we were talking last week, we had an issue talking about mental health and how that's affecting people. But I mean, it's really true because you got to think about all, different ways to protect both, not just ourselves, but people in our community. And I think one thing that I want to bring up with you and get your take on is, talking about the Asian American community in general, we talked about how, maybe if, lack of access or language barriers, that's hard to reach out for help. Talk to us about that dynamics when it comes to law enforcement. I'm sure there's a relationship dynamics there. And then Metro, I'm sure, have been, thinking about that, how they can reach out to the Asian American community and help them as well, right?
Sure. So one of the first things is breaking down the barriers. And I would encourage anyone to take that first step, be it a community leader, a religious leader, or whoever, leaders in these communities, and have them reach out to the different area command COP teams. COP stands for community oriented policing. So oftentimes when you see officers at different community events, hosting classes, at food drives, at school events, they might be part of community policing. And I think breaking down that barrier is inviting us or having us come to us for our events. First Tuesdays are always a great time to come and meet the officers in your community. I always encourage everyone to go to their area command where they live or where they work, because those are the officers out patrolling. That's the lieutenant and the captain that oversee your area. And sometimes it's about opening that dialogue. I mean, you need to build a relationship sometimes to ask the questions that you want. And sometimes the first question has to be like, what do you do? You know, who are you? Sometimes you have to see behind the badge of what these people are like to build that relationship. But like I said, we like to go out to events where people are hosting other things. Like if you just have us as a guest speaker for something, or even something like this, because we aren't going to be able to touch everyone, but we want to try. And we want people to feel comfortable approaching and talking to officers about their problems, telling them what they're seeing, different things. And I would also encourage, not every event in the AAPI community is going to be a violent one, but there has been things that haven't been so great. And we encourage people to report those incidents, because we can't, we obviously can't prevent every crime and we can't stop everything, but we need to be driven by statistics. And with that, we need that information given to us by the public, by our constituents, to let us know what's happening. And until we break that down, it's not going to happen.
And I think that you brought up a good point about reporting incidents, because I don't know, the exact statistics, but there's always been an issue of people not reporting enough crimes, but including in the Asian American community, whether it be, and we've talked about this before, in our conversations, whether it be culturally, maybe the lack of trust there, with law enforcement, or not wanting to just kind of air the issues that they have, including potential being victims of crime. But what happens, Tiffany, when it comes to, if there are issues with certain businesses or certain communities and they're not being reported? I mean, that's the issue, right? I mean, you guys won't know about it if we don't report it.
Exactly. So we can't counteract issues if we don't know they're happening. If they're not reporting, if incidents aren't being reported, then they're not going into our statistics. We're not knowing that your community needs additional patrol, or maybe, it could be anything. It's not all violence. It can be something as easy as car burglaries that people are like, you know what, I don't have the time to report this, or I don't want to deal with it. But then it just keeps building and building and building until it just overflows. And we see that there was a problem when we could have interacted and come in a lot longer or a lot sooner than we are now, when it's just become a huge issue.
And, we're talking about personal safety for women today. And I think it's really important to have, people like you, women who are talking about this, because when you think about representation and people, reaching out and feeling comfortable, I think, it's important to have people who look like them. And I think Metro has, if they've had efforts in the past, right, to diversify their forces and having people representing different groups and different communities. I mean, how important is that to have people who look like you in the force so that people would feel comfortable reaching out?
I think it's extremely important. I mean, for women's personal safety here at Metro, we like to teach it in a women's class as women, instructors, just so that you feel comfortable as an attendee asking questions. What would you do in this scenario? Sometimes it just gender to gender doesn't work to ask those questions. So we want to represent the Asian community. We want to represent women and have those just open dialogue and let people know that they can ask any question they want. Sometimes it can be a little specific. I think that part of having in-person classes again is really going to open it up, because in a virtual format, typing out questions or maybe feeling like it's being recorded is not something that people want to do. So we are so excited about having people that we can interact with, hopefully at some point without masks, so we can recognize everybody again soon.
Yeah, no, definitely. And, if you are all just joining us right now here live on Facebook, this is Tiffany Gassett, and she's a crime prevention specialist with Spring Valley Area Command with the Las Vegas Metro Police Department. We're touching on this issue, especially with Women's History Month, talking about, women business owners, homeowners, people who are affected by, we're seeing, like, as Tiffany was saying, the statistics of women being targets of violent crimes. That's just been ongoing. We've seen that happening. We know it's the reality reality. And right now we don't have that kind of access to classes and resources where it can be together in person. So I think it's great to have Tiffany here to talk about that. But, pretend we're in a class, for example, and Tiffany, pretend we're in a real class, and there are women out there, many of them like small like me, feel like, oh, I don't have the power. I don't know how to fight people. What are some of the tips and what are some of the tricks that you're telling people out there just to stay safe, whether they be in, their small business or in their home? And if an intruder comes in or something like that, what are some of the things that just so important to keep in mind?
So, it's hard to assess the situation. Let's throw out an example. Mm-hmm. If someone came to you on armed robbery, they have a weapon, they're telling you they want this, that, and whatever, your purse, your phone, whatever, we're always going to tell you to comply. Hand over your purse, hand over your wallet, hand over your keys, because there's nothing that you own that's more valuable than your life. Nothing. Yeah. Just get rid of it and comply. But the first and foremost, if we go back, is if you can avoid it, don't put yourself in this situation. We often tell people, if you can avoid going out at night to a dark or to your bank, don't do it. If you need someone to be with you, it's always safer to travel in groups. Yeah. You're going to want to avoid dark parking lots, shortcuts. Don't sit in your car and look on your phone because people are going to, you're putting yourself in the position. It's all about trying to not put yourself in a position where you might be attacked. But let's go a different route. Let's talk about maybe someone is trying to abduct you. They have a weapon and they're trying to grab you. They're trying to tell you to get in the car. The first thing that I'm going to tell you is to make as much noise as you can. You're going to scream for help. You're going to make a scene. You're going to try to get other people to look at you. And if you can't do that, then you're going to have to fight. You're going to have to put it up. And that's part of going back to that women's self-defense. You want to try a few different things to see what's going to work for you. Because oftentimes running might be the best bet, especially if you're a tiny woman or you don't have a lot of strength. And we're talking about a huge perpetrator trying to grab you. Right. So you're going to want to have that education of, here are my 5 options that I have. I have to fight. I have to make noise. I have to get other people's attention, and run through those in your mind and do them. And so it's all about that pre-planning of, what might I do if I'm in a situation? I'm ready to do these 5 things right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds like common sense, but these are things that, on an everyday basis, we're so busy doing a million things we don't think about, right? And then that's why I think when there are these classes that come up or resources that you offer, I think it's important for us to just kind of remind ourselves and our kids or our friends and family that, what to do. And it's just I think so disheartening to me, just seeing, like you've seen in the news, just elderly people, especially Asian Americans, being targeted now, people who are in their 70s and 80s, and they can't really fight back, and it's just so hard to see that. So I think, it's good to get this information out there, if not for yourself, then to help other people that are around you.
Yes. And I'm right there with you. We can't stop everything, but we can do as much as we can to prevent. So the first thing I'm going to tell everybody is, hop online, look for those self-defense classes, look for those personal safety devices, personal safety apps on your phone. Who doesn't have their phone these days? There's apps that you can put on your phone to help you. They're not all going to stop something like this, but they're going to help you in case something like this does happen.
And talk to me about that. So is there an app on your cell phone that can make a noise or something? What are some of the things that people can use and hold and use as their potential weapon?
Yes. So there's a multitude of apps. I can't give you one because I can't say one's better than the other, but there's apps that make noise, super loud noise to get other people's attention. There's apps that are like tactical flashlights, so it's a pulsing light to get people's attention. There's a panic app where if you have the app on your phone and you have it open, say you're in an area that you don't feel safe, potentially you're walking through a dark parking garage maybe, and you hit the button, it'll send a text out to the contacts in your phone letting people know that you need help and where you are. I mean, they've come a long way with technology and different things. There's bracelets that do that. There's necklaces that do it. I mean, there's a lot of options out there if you're willing to look.
And I think that's great because, we have all this. I mean, even just using your car alarm, right? The panic button, if you remember, you can make a noise with that. And we bring up all these parking lots, in the casino on the strip, you see all these parking lots. And a lot of time you see women walking alone. Like, you never know, what I mean? The dangers out there. So you got to think about things like that.
And I would also say sometimes I think in our society, we don't always want to ask people for help, but that's what security guards are there for. That's what that whole security personnel, especially in a hotel. Yeah. I don't feel comfortable walking to my car alone. It's dark. There's a lot of people here. I just don't feel comfortable. I mean, you don't even have to explain yourself. That's what they're there to do. They're there to assist you. And so if you're in an atmosphere like that, ask them to walk you to your car or watch you walk to your car because you don't feel comfortable. Because all these things that aren't impositions at all are going to keep you safe. So use them.
Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing that you're stressing, and I think it's important, is that if you see something, especially when it comes to crime, any kinds of crime, violent, hate crime or anything, is to report it, right? I mean, to say something and to get it out there, because then people know that it is happening.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's come to my attention that some people will ask, what do I do if I am the witness to a crime? It's not happening to me, but I'm witnessing it. Well, the first thing you're going to do is, if you don't have a responsibility to intervene, you do have a responsibility to protect yourself, but different people, different capabilities. Unless you're a police officer, then you have a responsibility to intervene. But what you can always do is be an excellent witness. I want you to be able to describe someone from the top of their head to the tip of their toes, work your way down. Everyone has a cell phone these days, record the incident, call 911 for that person. Yeah. Being a good witness is going to help, because sometimes the person that's in the middle of whatever is happening, they don't have the opportunity to do it, and they're in fight or flight. Maybe they're not taking all those details down, but you as a good witness can call for help, record, be a good witness and notice everything, the area, the car, the person, all the people around. And that is something that's going to help people too, because that's what we're here for. We need people that are going to describe and speak up when something's happening.
Yeah. And, you forget the technology. We're talking about different apps on our cell phone. I mean, we can record things, and things like that have stopped people from doing things before, because they know that people are watching and people are taping, and you have that ability to help and get the word out there.
Exactly. I mean, it's unfortunate, all the violence that we've seen on people's that they videotaped that's happening, but it's also been extremely helpful in prosecuting and finding suspects, because we can blast that information out to the world. And there's so many people, we're all so connected now. Oftentimes that's been what's helped catch somebody.
Yeah, no, and it's great to see how technology has helped us in that way, right? So, just to sum it up, what are some of the things that you want to put out there? People want to reach out, especially people who may not have all the technology, like maybe they have language barriers, maybe have other ways. How's Metro, kind of helping to reach these hard to reach communities and get them to build a relationship and feel safe as part of the community here?
So I would say the first step is definitely reach out to your local police department. That's the very first step. Reach out and let them know that there's a need for whatever information that you want, because there's so much going on in the Valley at all times. I mean, sometimes you can be pulled in about 10,000 different directions with what's happening. So if you have found a need in your community and you know that there's a language barrier or something, at least reach out to your COP squad, your COP sergeant, your crime prevention specialist for your area, and say, hey, I want to do this. What are the workarounds that we can come up with to get out into these communities? Can we attend these events? We have this language barrier. Can we have it translated at all? I mean, we're here to help you find the workarounds for the different things. But like I said, until we know the need is there, we won't we won't act on it. So I'd say the very first step is reaching out.
Yeah, that's great. And Tiffany, we thank you for coming on and representing at least the women's side of it, that you're there to help, especially when it comes to this issue of personal safety for women that we're focusing on today. And, we'll put Tiffany's information if people want to reach out. Again, she said you don't have to be in Spring Valley to reach out to people in Spring Valley, right? You can reach out to people in any parts of the city. Well, great. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for all your help and some great tips that you can share with the community today. And we hope we stay in touch and work with you in the near future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And always reach out to the Asian Community Development Council. Their offices are open by appointment, of course, with all the language issues and everything, all the issues that you want to reach out. Go to the website as well, acdcnv.org, for more information. And thank you so much for watching this episode of Family in Focus, and we'll see you again next week.